Question 1. Market research demonstrates that a significant number of applicants to Altai State University's entrance examinations feel immense pressure to perform exceptionally well. You are a candidate preparing for the exam and have overheard a conversation suggesting that certain past exam papers, containing questions very similar to those expected this year, are circulating unofficially. You have not seen these papers yourself, nor have you been offered them. However, the information has made you consider how much extra effort you should put into studying specific topics that might be covered in such materials, even though your current preparation plan is comprehensive. Which of the following represents the most ethically sound and compliant approach to this situation, considering the regulatory framework of the Altai State University entrance exam? Option A. Discuss the overheard conversation with other candidates to gauge their awareness and potentially coordinate study efforts around the rumored materials, assuming that shared knowledge can lead to collective success. Option B. Discreetly try to obtain the rumored unofficial exam papers to ensure you are thoroughly prepared for any potential questions, believing that thorough preparation is the ultimate goal. Option C. Inform the examination authorities about the overheard conversation, even though you have no concrete evidence of wrongdoing, to ensure the integrity of the exam process is maintained. Option D. Focus solely on your established study plan, trusting that your diligent preparation will be sufficient, and do not seek out or engage with any unofficial materials, regardless of their alleged content. The correct answer is D. Focus solely on your established study plan, trusting that your diligent preparation will be sufficient, and do not seek out or engage with any unofficial materials, regardless of their alleged content. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to achieve a high score and the ethical obligation to uphold academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in entrance exams can lead individuals to consider shortcuts, making it crucial to understand the boundaries of acceptable conduct. Careful judgment is required to navigate situations where personal ambition might tempt one towards unethical actions. The correct approach involves a commitment to personal effort and adherence to the examination rules. This aligns with the core principles of academic integrity, which are fundamental to the Altai State University entrance exams regulatory framework. Specifically, the exam regulations emphasize fair competition and the prohibition of any form of cheating or unauthorized assistance. By choosing to rely solely on their own knowledge and preparation, the student upholds these regulations and demonstrates respect for the examination process and their fellow candidates. This approach ensures that the assessment accurately reflects the student's abilities and knowledge, fostering a fair and credible evaluation. An incorrect approach that involves seeking or using unauthorized materials during the exam constitutes a direct violation of the Altai State University entrance exams rules against cheating. This action undermines the fairness of the examination and devalues the achievements of honest candidates. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to gain an unfair advantage through prior knowledge of specific exam questions obtained through illicit means, is also a serious breach of academic integrity. This not only violates the exam regulations, but also demonstrates a lack of respect for the educational institution and the principles of meritocracy. Such actions can lead to severe penalties, including disqualification from the exam and potential disciplinary action by the university. Professionals facing similar situations should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical conduct and adherence to established rules. This involves clearly understanding the relevant regulations and ethical guidelines, assessing the potential consequences of different actions, and making a choice that aligns with integrity and fairness. When faced with temptation or pressure, it is essential to pause, reflect on the ethical implications, and reaffirm commitment to honest practices. Seeking guidance from trusted mentors or university authorities can also be a valuable step when uncertain about the appropriate course of action. Question 2. Risk assessment procedures indicate a potential applicant for the Altai State University entrance exam has demonstrated significant financial hardship and has expressed a strong desire to contribute to the university's endowment in the future, but their academic performance in the preparatory stages has been borderline according to the university's published admission criteria. The admissions committee is considering how to proceed. Option A. Create a special admission category for this applicant, allowing them to bypass some of the standard academic assessment requirements. Option B. Grant admission to the applicant due to their expressed financial need and potential future financial contributions, even if they do not fully meet the academic criteria. Option C. Admit the applicant on a probationary basis, with the understanding that they must meet certain academic benchmarks within their first year, without a thorough initial review of their current academic standing against the exam criteria. Option D. Evaluate the applicant strictly based on the established academic criteria for the Altai State University entrance exam, regardless of their financial situation or future potential contributions. Correct answer is D. Evaluate the applicant strictly based on the established academic criteria for the Altai State University entrance exam, regardless of their financial situation or future potential contributions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the long-term integrity of its academic programs and reputation. The applicant's potential financial distress, while sympathetic, cannot be the sole determinant of admission when academic merit and adherence to established admission criteria are paramount. The university's responsibility is to uphold its standards and ensure that all admitted students meet the required academic benchmarks, thereby maintaining the credibility of its degrees and the value of its educational offerings. The correct approach involves a rigorous and impartial evaluation of the applicant's academic qualifications against the established admission criteria for the Altai State University entrance exam. This means assessing their performance in the required subjects, their overall academic record, and any other objective measures stipulated by the university's admission regulations. This approach is ethically sound and legally compliant because it adheres strictly to the published rules and regulations governing the entrance exam, ensuring fairness and equal opportunity for all applicants. It prioritizes academic merit and objective assessment, which are the cornerstones of a reputable educational institution. An incorrect approach would be to grant admission based solely on the applicant's stated financial need or the potential for future financial contributions to the university. This would violate the principle of merit-based admission and could be seen as a form of preferential treatment, undermining the fairness of the entrance exam process. Such an action could also set a dangerous precedent, leading to a perception that financial capacity, rather than academic achievement, is a deciding factor in admission, thereby damaging the university's reputation. Another incorrect approach would be to bypass the standard admission procedures and create a special admission category for this applicant. This circumvents the established regulatory framework for the Altai State University entrance exam and could lead to accusations of favoritism or corruption. It fails to uphold the transparency and objectivity required in academic admissions. A third incorrect approach would be to admit the applicant without a thorough review of their academic credentials, hoping that their financial situation will improve or that they will eventually meet the academic requirements. This is a dereliction of duty, as it places the university's reputation and the academic standards at risk by admitting a student who may not be academically prepared. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding and strict adherence to the Altai State University entrance exam regulations. Professionals must prioritize objective assessment, fairness, and transparency. When faced with conflicting considerations, such as financial need versus academic merit, the decision must be grounded in the established rules and ethical guidelines of the institution. If there is a genuine need for financial assistance, the university should have established scholarship or financial aid programs that are applied equitably to all eligible students, separate from the admission decision itself. Question 3. The monitoring system demonstrates a pattern of unusual activity during an applicant's entrance examination session, suggesting a potential violation of academic integrity rules. What is the most appropriate immediate course of action according to the Altai State University entrance exam regulations? Option A. Document the observed anomaly and report it through the university's designated internal channels for investigation. Option B. Immediately disqualify the applicant and inform them of the decision. Option C. Ignore the alert, assuming it is a technical glitch or a false positive. Option D. Discuss the observed activity with other faculty members to gauge their opinion before taking action. The correct answer is B. Immediately disqualify the applicant and inform them of the decision. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the conflict between the immediate need to address a potential breach of academic integrity and the established procedures for handling such matters at Altai State University. The university's entrance exam regulations, which are paramount in this context, likely outline specific protocols for investigating and acting upon evidence of academic misconduct. A hasty or improperly documented response could undermine the integrity of the examination process and potentially lead to unfair consequences for the applicant. Careful judgment is required to balance the urgency of the situation with adherence to the established regulatory framework. The correct approach involves meticulously documenting the observed anomaly and reporting it through the designated channels as stipulated by the Altai State University entrance exam regulations. This ensures that any subsequent actions are based on a formal record and follow the prescribed investigative process. This approach is ethically sound and legally compliant because it upholds the principles of fairness, due process, and adherence to institutional rules. The Altai State University entrance exam regulations are designed to ensure a fair and impartial assessment for all applicants, and this method respects those guidelines by initiating a formal, documented investigation. An incorrect approach would be to immediately disqualify the applicant based solely on the monitoring system's alert without further investigation or adherence to procedural requirements. This fails to comply with the Altai State University entrance exam regulations, which likely mandate a formal investigation process before any punitive action is taken. Ethically, this approach violates the principle of due process, as the applicant is not given an opportunity to have the evidence reviewed or to respond. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the alert from the monitoring system, assuming it might be a false positive. This neglects the university's responsibility to maintain the integrity of its entrance examinations and could allow for academic misconduct to go unaddressed, thereby undermining the fairness of the process for all other applicants. This failure to act in accordance with the spirit and letter of the Altai State University entrance exam regulations is a significant ethical and professional lapse. A further incorrect approach would be to discuss the observed anomaly with other staff members or external parties before initiating the formal reporting procedure. This breaches confidentiality and could prejudice the investigation, violating the Altai State University entrance exam regulations regarding the handling of sensitive information and the integrity of the examination process. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve, first, recognizing the potential ethical and regulatory implications. Second, consulting the specific Altai State University entrance exam regulations to understand the mandated procedures. Third, gathering and documenting all relevant evidence in a neutral and objective manner. Fourth, initiating the formal reporting process as outlined in the regulations. And finally, cooperating fully with any subsequent investigation while maintaining confidentiality. Question 4. Investigation of an invigilator's conduct during the Altai State University entrance examination reveals a situation where a student, visibly struggling with a question, discreetly signals the invigilator for help. The invigilator is aware that the university's entrance exam regulations strictly prohibit any form of assistance or communication that could compromise the integrity of the examination. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound course of action for the invigilator? Option A. Continue to observe the student without any interaction, assuming that the student's signal is not a serious attempt to cheat and that intervention might be unnecessary. Option B. Provide subtle hints or rephrase the question to guide the student towards the correct answer, believing that helping a struggling student is more important than strict adherence to rules in this instance. Option C. Lightly inform the student that no assistance can be provided during the examination, and if appropriate and permitted by specific exam rules, direct them to the official question clarification process or relevant university support services available after the exam. Option D. Immediately stop the student and report them for attempting to solicit assistance, without first clarifying the student's intent or the nature of their request. The correct answer is C. Politely inform the student that no assistance can be provided during the examination, and, if appropriate and permitted by specific exam rules, direct them to the official question clarification process or relevant university support services available after the exam. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's perceived need for assistance and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The entrance exam is designed to evaluate a candidate's independent knowledge and aptitude. Providing unauthorized assistance, even with good intentions, undermines the validity of the examination process and creates an unfair advantage for the student, potentially impacting the admission of other deserving candidates. The university's regulatory framework, as outlined in its entrance exam guidelines, strictly prohibits any form of academic dishonesty. The correct approach involves upholding the integrity of the examination process by refusing to provide unauthorized assistance and instead directing the student to appropriate, authorized channels for academic support. This aligns with the Altai State University's entrance exam regulations, which emphasize fair competition and ethical conduct. By adhering to these guidelines, the invigilator acts as a guardian of academic standards, ensuring that all candidates are assessed on their own merits. This approach prioritizes fairness, transparency, and the long-term credibility of the university's admissions process. An incorrect approach of providing hints or direct answers to the student's questions would constitute a violation of the Altai State University's entrance exam regulations concerning academic integrity. This action would directly compromise the fairness of the examination, creating an inequitable situation for other candidates. It would also undermine the purpose of the entrance exam, which is to objectively measure a student's preparedness. Another incorrect approach of ignoring the student's requests and continuing with the examination without any intervention, while seemingly neutral, fails to uphold the invigilator's responsibility to ensure a fair and orderly examination environment. Regulations implicitly require invigilators to address potential breaches of conduct or to clarify procedural matters appropriately. Failing to respond to a student's overt attempt to seek assistance, even if the assistance is not provided, could be interpreted as a dereliction of duty in maintaining exam integrity. A further incorrect approach of reporting the student for attempting to seek assistance without first clarifying the nature of their request could be overly punitive and may not be in line with the spirit of the regulations, which often allow for clarification of instructions. The primary focus should be on preventing academic dishonesty, not on penalizing students for minor procedural misunderstandings if they can be rectified without compromising the exam's fairness. The professional decision-making process in such a situation should involve 1. Recognizing the potential ethical conflict. 2. Consulting the specific Altai State University entrance exam regulations for guidance on invigilator responsibilities and academic integrity. 3. Prioritizing the preservation of exam fairness and academic integrity. 4. Responding to the student in a manner that is both professional and compliant with regulations, which in this case means refusing unauthorized assistance and guiding them to appropriate resources if applicable and permissible by exam rules. Question 5. The assessment process reveals that a significant portion of applicants for a highly competitive program at Altai State University have performed below the expected threshold on a critical assessment component. The university administration, concerned about the program's enrollment numbers and overall ranking, has subtly suggested that the reporting of these results be contextualized or mitigated to avoid negative perceptions. You are responsible for the final compilation and reporting of these assessment outcomes. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound approach to handling this situation? Option A. Delay the reporting of the unfavorable results, seeking to find alternative interpretations or justifications for the performance before submitting the final report. Option B. Report the assessment results accurately and transparently, adhering strictly to the established protocols of the Altai State University entrance exam, and provide a factual report to the administration. Option C. Present a revised report that highlights the strengths of the applicant pool while downplaying the significance of the underperforming component, framing it as an anomaly. Option D. Focus the report solely on the applicants who met or exceeded the threshold, omitting the data pertaining to those who did not, to present a more positive overall picture. The correct answer is B. Report the assessment results accurately and transparently, adhering strictly to the established protocols of the Altai State University entrance exam, and provide a factual report to the administration. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's desire to present a positive image and the ethical obligation to accurately report assessment outcomes. The pressure to achieve favorable results can lead to compromised integrity. Careful judgment is required to navigate this situation, ensuring that professional ethics and regulatory compliance are prioritized over institutional pressures. The correct approach involves transparently and accurately reporting the assessment results, regardless of their impact on the university's reputation. This aligns with the fundamental ethical principles of honesty, integrity, and professional responsibility expected of individuals involved in educational assessments. Specifically, within the context of university entrance exams, adherence to the established regulatory framework, laws, and guidelines of the Altai State University entrance exam is paramount. This framework likely mandates objective evaluation and truthful reporting of all assessment data. Any deviation from this would violate the spirit and letter of these regulations, undermining the credibility of the examination process and the institution itself. An incorrect approach would be to manipulate or selectively report the assessment data to present a more favorable picture. This action constitutes a direct breach of ethical conduct and likely violates specific clauses within the Altai State University entrance exams regulatory framework concerning data integrity and reporting accuracy. Such manipulation erodes trust in the assessment process, potentially leading to unfair admissions decisions and damaging the university's reputation in the long run. Another incorrect approach would be to delay or withhold the reporting of unfavorable results in the hope that a solution might be found or that the situation might resolve itself. This inaction is also a failure of professional responsibility. The regulatory framework for university entrance exams typically sets timelines and procedures for reporting, and failing to adhere to these constitutes a breach. Furthermore, withholding information prevents timely and appropriate action, which could include addressing underlying issues that led to the poor performance or making necessary adjustments to admission criteria if justified by the data. The professional decision-making process in such situation should involve a clear understanding of the governing regulations and ethical codes. When faced with conflicting pressures, professionals should 1. Identify the core ethical principles and regulatory requirements at play. 2. Assess the potential consequences of each possible course of action both for individuals and the institution. 3. Consult relevant policies and guidelines. 4. If ambiguity exists, seek guidance from supervisors or ethics committees. 5. Prioritize transparency, accuracy, and fairness in all decisions. In this case, the immediate and accurate reporting of results, even if unfavorable, is the only ethically and regulatorily sound path. Question 6. The monitoring system demonstrates a pattern of keystrokes and mouse movements during the Altai State University entrance exam that deviates significantly from typical applicant behavior, raising a suspicion of unauthorized assistance. What is the most ethically and procedurally sound course of action for the examination proctor? Option A. Immediately flag the applicant for disqualification and notify the admissions committee of the suspected academic misconduct. Option B. Disregard the system alert as a potential technical anomaly and allow the examination to proceed without further scrutiny. Option C. Discreetly inform other proctors and applicants about the suspicious activity to gauge their observations. Option D. Initiate a formal review process as outlined in the Altai State University entrance exam regulations for suspected academic integrity violations, gathering all relevant data for impartial assessment. The correct answer is A. Immediately flag the applicant for disqualification and notify the admissions committee of the suspected academic misconduct. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the conflict between the immediate need to address a potential breach of academic integrity and the established procedures for handling such allegations within Altai State University. The university's entrance exam regulations, which are the sole governing framework here, likely emphasize fairness, due process, and the integrity of the examination process. A hasty or unsubstantiated accusation could unfairly prejudice an applicant, while inaction could compromise the validity of the entrance process. Careful judgment is required to balance these competing interests. The correct approach involves initiating a formal review process, as stipulated by Altai State University's entrance exam regulations. This approach is professionally sound because it adheres strictly to the established procedural safeguards designed to ensure fairness and accuracy. By following the prescribed steps for investigating suspected academic misconduct, the university upholds its commitment to a transparent and equitable admission process. This method allows for a thorough examination of the evidence, provides the applicant with an opportunity to respond, and ensures that any decision is based on a comprehensive and impartial assessment, thereby protecting the integrity of the entrance exam and the university's reputation. An incorrect approach of immediately disqualifying the applicant based solely on the monitoring system's alert fails to respect the principles of due process. The regulations likely require more than just an automated alert. They necessitate a human review and an opportunity for the applicant to be heard. This approach risks an arbitrary and unfair decision, potentially leading to legal challenges and reputational damage for the university. Another incorrect approach of ignoring the alert and proceeding with the admission process without any investigation is also professionally unacceptable. This failure to act on credible suspicion of academic misconduct undermines the integrity of the entrance examination. It suggests a disregard for the rules and a lack of commitment to maintaining a fair playing field for all applicants, potentially allowing an unqualified or improperly admitted student to gain entry. A further incorrect approach of discussing the suspected breach with other applicants or external parties before a formal investigation violates confidentiality and prejudges the situation. This action could lead to the spread of misinformation, damage the applicant's reputation, and compromise the impartiality of any subsequent investigation. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's entrance exam regulations. When a potential issue arises, the professional should first assess the nature and severity of the concern, then consult the relevant procedural guidelines. The next step is to initiate the prescribed investigation process, ensuring all actions are documented and that the applicant's rights are respected. Throughout the process, maintaining objectivity, confidentiality, and adherence to established protocols are paramount. Question 7. When evaluating a situation where a fellow applicant for the Altai State University entrance exam, whom you know well, contacts you during a break and asks for specific questions from the exam you have just completed, what is the most ethically and regulatorily sound course of action? Option A. Ignore the request and hope the friend figures out the questions on their own without any assistance. Option B. Share some of the questions, rationalizing that it's a small favor for a friend and won't significantly impact the overall exam fairness. Option C. Politely decline to share any exam content and explain that doing so would violate the exam's integrity rules. Option D. Offer to provide a detailed study guide on the subjects covered in the exam, which might indirectly help the friend prepare for future attempts. The correct answer is C. Politely decline to share any exam content and explain that doing so would violate the exam's integrity rules. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic success and the integrity of the examination process. The pressure to perform well on a university entrance exam can lead individuals to consider unethical shortcuts. Careful judgment is required to navigate this situation, upholding academic honesty and the fairness of the assessment. The correct approach involves prioritizing academic integrity and adhering to the Altai State University entrance exam regulations. This means refusing to engage in any form of academic dishonesty, including sharing exam content. This aligns with the fundamental ethical principles of honesty and fairness expected of all candidates. Specifically, the regulations of Altai State University entrance exam, which are designed to ensure a level playing field and the accurate assessment of knowledge, would prohibit any action that compromises the security or fairness of the examination. Upholding these regulations is paramount. An incorrect approach would be to share the exam questions with a friend. This action directly violates the principles of academic integrity and the specific rules of the Altai State University entrance exam, which implicitly or explicitly forbid the dissemination of examination materials before or during the exam. Such a breach undermines the validity of the exam and is a form of academic misconduct. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the request and do nothing, hoping the situation resolves itself. Not actively participating in cheating, this passive stance fails to uphold the ethical responsibility to report or address potential breaches of exam integrity. The Altai State University entrance exam regulations likely include provisions for reporting suspicious activity to maintain the fairness of the process. A third incorrect approach would be to offer to help the friend study the general topics covered by the exam without providing specific questions. While seemingly helpful, this can still be problematic if the general topics are so narrowly defined or if the interaction creates an unfair advantage for the friend, potentially bordering on collusion or aiding in academic dishonesty, depending on the specific interpretation of the exam's integrity rules. The focus should be on ensuring no information that could compromise the exam's fairness is exchanged. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Recognizing the ethical dilemma and the potential for academic misconduct. 2. Consulting the specific regulations of the Altai State University entrance exam regarding academic integrity and reporting procedures. 3. Prioritizing honesty and fairness above all else. 4. Refusing to participate in or facilitate any form of cheating. 5. If necessary and appropriate according to the regulations, reporting the incident to the relevant examination authorities. Question 8. The performance metrics show a substantial increase in applications for Altai State University's advanced physics program, exceeding the available enrollment slots. The admissions committee is tasked with selecting the most qualified candidates, which approach best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for the Altai State University entrance exam. Option A. Accept a predetermined number of students from each region to ensure geographical diversity, even if some of these students have lower entrance exam scores than other applicants. Option B. Select candidates based on a combination of entrance exam scores and informal recommendations from faculty members, giving preference to those who have participated in university-sponsored outreach events. Option C. Focus on candidates who demonstrate exceptional extracurricular achievements in science clubs, even if their entrance exam scores are below the established minimum threshold for the advanced physics program. Option D. Prioritize candidates with the highest entrance exam scores in physics and mathematics, and ensure all other documented prerequisites are met according to the official Altai State University entrance exam admission criteria. The correct answer is D. Prioritize candidates with the highest entrance exam scores in physics and mathematics, and ensure all other documented prerequisites are met according to the official Altai State University entrance exam admission criteria. Explanation. The performance metrics show a significant increase in student applications for the Altai State University's competitive engineering programs. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the admissions committee to balance the university's strategic goals of attracting top talent with the ethical obligation to ensure a fair and transparent selection process, adhering strictly to the Altai State University entrance exam regulations. The pressure to meet enrollment targets or enhance the university's reputation could tempt deviations from established procedures. The correct approach involves a thorough review of all applications against the established admission criteria as outlined in the Altai State University entrance exam regulations, with a particular focus on the academic achievements, entrance exam scores, and any specific program prerequisites. This approach is ethically sound and professionally responsible because it upholds the principles of fairness, objectivity, and meritocracy, which are fundamental to academic admissions. It ensures that all candidates are evaluated on the same, predefined standards, preventing bias and maintaining the integrity of the selection process. Adherence to these regulations is paramount for Altai State University to maintain its credibility and the trust of prospective students and the wider academic community. An incorrect approach that prioritizes filling quotas or accepting students based on informal recommendations, without strict adherence to the documented admission criteria and entrance exam results, would be a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This would violate the principle of equal opportunity and could lead to the admission of less qualified candidates, thereby undermining the academic standards of the engineering programs. Another incorrect approach, such as selectively applying stricter criteria to certain applicant groups or overlooking minor discrepancies for favored candidates, constitutes discrimination and a breach of the Altai State University entrance exam regulations, eroding fairness and transparency. Furthermore, an approach that relies on subjective impressions or personal biases rather than objective, quantifiable metrics defined by the exam regulations would be unprofessional and unethical, as it introduces arbitrariness into a process that must be systematic and impartial. Professionals in university admission should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding and strict adherence to the Altai State University entrance exam regulations. This framework involves establishing objective evaluation criteria, ensuring consistent application of these criteria to all applicants, maintaining detailed records of the decision-making process, and having a mechanism for review and appeal. Transparency in the process and a commitment to fairness, even under pressure, are essential for upholding professional integrity. Question 9. Analysis of the Altai State University entrance exam admission process reveals that applicants are required to submit a specific set of documents as outlined in the official regulations. An applicant, aiming to present themselves in the best possible light, considers including a portfolio of their academic achievements beyond the explicitly listed mandatory documents, and also contemplates omitting one of the listed mandatory documents due to a perceived minor irrelevance, which approach best aligns with the Altai State University entrance exam regulatory framework. Option A. Strictly adhere to the list of mandatory documents provided in the Altai State University entrance exam regulations, submitting only those items. Option B. Submit all mandatory documents along with a comprehensive portfolio of additional achievements and omit the one perceived as minor. Option C. Omit one of the mandatory documents due to its perceived minor irrelevance while submitting all others. Option D. Submit the mandatory documents, but include a supplementary portfolio of achievements. Correct answer is A. Strictly adhere to the list of mandatory documents provided in the Altai State University entrance exam regulations, submitting only those items. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to navigate the specific admission requirements of Altai State University, which are governed by the university's internal regulations and potentially by broader Russian Federation educational laws. The challenge lies in accurately interpreting and applying these regulations to a specific situation, ensuring that the applicant's submission meets all stipulated criteria without misrepresentation or omission. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between essential documentation and supplementary information, and to understand the weight given to each by the admissions committee. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the Altai State University entrance exam regulations, specifically focusing on the documentation requirements for applicants. This approach is correct because it directly adheres to the established legal and regulatory framework governing university admissions in the Russian Federation, as interpreted and implemented by Altai State University. By meticulously gathering and presenting only the documents explicitly listed as mandatory in the official regulations, the applicant demonstrates respect for the established procedures and avoids any potential grounds for disqualification due to noncompliance or the submission of irrelevant or unauthorized materials. This aligns with the principle of transparency and adherence to rules, which are fundamental in any formal application process. An incorrect approach that involves submitting additional, non-mandated documents, even if perceived as beneficial by the applicant, is professionally unacceptable. This fails to respect the defined scope of required documentation and could be interpreted as an attempt to unduly influence the admissions committee or to circumvent established procedures. Such an action might violate university regulations regarding the completeness and format of applications, potentially leading to the application being rejected. Another incorrect approach, which is to omit a document that is explicitly listed as mandatory, is a direct violation of the Altai State University entrance exam regulations. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to understand or comply with the fundamental requirements of the application process. Such an omission would likely result in the application being deemed incomplete and therefore ineligible for consideration, regardless of the applicant's other qualifications. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic approach. 1. Identify the governing regulatory framework. In this case, it is the Altai State University entrance exam regulations and relevant Russian Federation educational laws. 2. Thoroughly review all stipulated requirements. Pay close attention to mandatory documents, deadlines, and submission formats. 3. Seek clarification if any aspect of the regulations is unclear. Contact the university admissions office directly for official guidance. 4. Prepare and submit all required documentation accurately and completely. Ensure that no mandatory items are omitted and no extraneous items are included unless explicitly permitted. 5. Maintain records of all submitted documents and communications. This provides a safeguard in case of any disputes or queries. Question 10. Benchmark analysis indicates that Altai State University is facing a significant budget deficit for the upcoming academic year. The university administration is exploring various options to secure immediate funding, considering the regulatory framework governing educational institutions in the Russian Federation. Which of the following approaches would be most compliant and ethically sound for addressing this financial challenge? Option A. Proactively engaging with the Ministry of Science and Higher Education of the Russian Federation to explore options for federal grants, subsidies, or emergency funding, while simultaneously initiating a transparent fundraising campaign targeting alumni and corporate partners with clear disclosures of fund utilization. Option B. Reallocating a substantial portion of funds designated for student stipends and research grants to cover immediate operational costs, with the intention of repaying these funds at a later, unspecified date. Option C. Securing a high-interest, short-term loan from an offshore financial institution that offers immediate disbursement, without extensive review of their regulatory compliance or the specific terms of the loan agreement. Option D. Accepting a large, anonymous donation from a foreign entity whose business activities are known to be controversial, without conducting any due diligence on the source or implications of the funds. The correct answer is A. Proactively engaging with the Ministry of Science and Higher Education of the Russian Federation to explore options for federal grants, subsidies, or emergency funding, while simultaneously initiating a transparent fundraising campaign targeting alumni and corporate partners with clear disclosures of fund utilization. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's immediate financial needs with its long-term academic mission and ethical obligations to its students and faculty. The pressure to secure funding quickly can lead to compromises that might violate established regulations or ethical principles, potentially damaging the university's reputation and its ability to attract future investment or talent. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any funding strategy aligns with the Altai State University's governing statutes and relevant Russian Federation educational and financial regulations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the Altai State University's charter and the federal law on education in the Russian Federation to identify permissible avenues for fundraising and investment. This approach prioritizes compliance with all applicable laws and internal university policies. It ensures that any proposed financial activities are transparent, ethically sound, and contribute to the university's core mission without jeopardizing its academic integrity or long-term sustainability. This aligns with the principles of responsible governance and financial stewardship expected of educational institutions. Incorrect approach is analysis. Seeking immediate short-term loans from unregulated private lenders without due diligence on their terms or regulatory standing is an incorrect approach. This could expose the university to predatory lending practices, violate financial regulations concerning borrowing limits or reporting, and potentially lead to unsustainable debt burdens, thereby undermining the university's financial stability and academic operations. Accepting a significant donation from an entity with a questionable reputation or whose funding source is opaque is also an incorrect approach. This could violate ethical guidelines regarding the acceptance of gifts, potentially create conflicts of interest, and damage the university's public image. Furthermore, it might contravene regulations concerning the source of funds for educational institutions, especially if the funds are linked to illicit activities. Diverting funds allocated for student scholarships or faculty research to cover immediate operational shortfalls without proper authorization or a clear repayment plan is an incorrect approach. This directly violates regulations governing the use of restricted funds and fiduciary duties. It undermines the trust placed in the university by donors and the government, and it can have severe negative consequences for student welfare and academic advancement. Professional reasoning. Professionals in university administration must adopt a proactive and compliant approach to financial management. This involves understanding the legal and ethical framework governing educational institutions, conducting thorough due diligence on all financial transactions and partnerships, and prioritizing transparency and accountability. When faced with financial challenges, the decision-making process should involve consulting relevant legal counsel and financial advisors, adhering strictly to university statutes and national laws, and always considering the long-term impact on the institution's mission and reputation. A robust risk assessment framework should be applied to all financial proposals. Question 11. Benchmark analysis indicates that candidates preparing for the Altai State University entrance exam often encounter ambiguity regarding the permissible use of external study aids. A candidate is unsure whether a specific, non-electronic printed study guide, which compiles information from various approved textbooks, but also includes some supplementary explanatory notes and practice questions, not directly from the official syllabus, is considered an acceptable resource or a prohibited external aid. Which of the following actions best reflects a responsible and compliant approach to the situation? Option A. Proactively contact the Altai State University admissions office to seek a definitive interpretation of the regulations concerning the use of such study guides in the entrance examination. Option B. Rely on the advice of a fellow applicant who claims to have used a similar guide in a previous year without issue. Option C. Proceed with using the study guide, believing that its supplementary nature makes it unlikely to be flagged as a prohibited external aid. Option D. Assume that any printed study material not explicitly listed as forbidden is permissible for use during the examination. The correct answer is A. Proactively contact the Altai State University admissions office to seek a definitive interpretation of the regulations concerning the use of such study guides in the entrance examination. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge involving the interpretation and application of Altai State University's entrance examination regulations concerning the use of external aids. The core difficulty lies in balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment with the practical realities of candidate preparation and the potential for unintentional rule breaches. A candidate's understanding of what constitutes an impermissible aid is crucial, and misinterpretation can lead to disqualification, impacting their educational aspirations. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between legitimate preparation tools and prohibited assistance. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a candidate proactively seeking clarification from the Altai State University admissions office regarding the specific regulations on external aids for the entrance exam. This demonstrates a commitment to adhering to the rules and ensures a clear understanding of what is permissible. This approach is justified by the university's own stated regulatory framework, which implicitly requires candidates to be aware of and comply with all examination rules. Seeking clarification proactively aligns with the ethical principle of acting with integrity and avoiding any potential for academic misconduct. It directly addresses the ambiguity in the regulations by obtaining an authoritative interpretation. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach where a candidate assumes that any study material not explicitly forbidden is allowed is incorrect. This is a failure to exercise due diligence and proactively understand the examination rules. Risks violating the spirit, if not the letter, of the regulations, leading to potential disqualification. The university's regulations are designed to ensure a standardized and fair assessment, and such assumptions undermine this objective. Another incorrect approach is to rely solely on informal advice from peers or tutors about what is permissible. While well-intentioned, this advice may not be accurate or reflect the official interpretation of Altai State University's regulations. This approach is ethically flawed as it outsources the responsibility for understanding and complying with the rules, potentially leading to an unintentional breach of regulations. Finally, an approach where a candidate decides to use a potentially ambiguous item as an external aid without seeking clarification, believing it is unlikely to be detected or deemed problematic, is also incorrect. This demonstrates a lack of integrity and a willingness to take an undue risk. It directly contravenes the principle of transparency and fair play expected in an academic examination setting and could lead to severe consequences. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing similar situations should adopt a proactive and transparent approach. The decision-making process should involve 1. Identifying the relevant regulations or policies. 2. Recognizing any ambiguities or areas of uncertainty. 3. Seeking official clarification from the authoritative body responsible for the regulations. 4. Documenting the clarification received, if possible, for future reference. This systematic approach ensures compliance, upholds ethical standards, and minimizes the risk of unintended consequences. Question 12. Research into the Altai State University entrance examination process has revealed concerns raised by an external educational consultancy regarding the perceived difficulty and relevance of certain question types. The consultancy suggests modifications to align more closely with contemporary educational trends, offering their services to assist in revising the examination. The university's internal regulations for entrance examinations emphasize objectivity, fairness, and alignment with the approved curriculum. What is the most appropriate course of action for the Altai State University administration to address these concerns while upholding the integrity of its entrance examination process? Option A. Dismiss the external consultancy's feedback outright, citing the university's long-standing examination procedures as inherently superior and requiring no external input. Option B. Form an independent internal committee, comprised of faculty members and academic administrators, to rigorously review the examination materials and procedures against the university's established curriculum and entrance examination regulations, considering the consultancy's feedback as one input among others. Option C. Immediately accept the external consultancy's offer to revise the examination to ensure it reflects contemporary trends, prioritizing their suggestions to enhance the university's perceived modernity. Option D. Publicly acknowledge the external consultancy's expertise and announce that the entrance examination will be significantly altered based on their recommendations to improve its relevance. The correct answer is B. Form an independent internal committee, comprised of faculty members and academic administrators, to rigorously review the examination materials and procedures against the university's established curriculum and entrance examination regulations, considering the consultancy's feedback as one input among others. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a university's academic mission and the potential for external influence to compromise its integrity. Entrance exams are critical gatekeepers, and ensuring their fairness and validity is paramount to maintaining public trust and the reputation of Altai State University. The challenge lies in balancing the need to attract talented students with the imperative to uphold rigorous academic standards and prevent any perception of impropriety. Careful judgment is required to navigate these competing interests. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective review of the examination materials and procedures by an independent committee, adhering strictly to the established Altai State University entrance exam regulations. This committee's mandate would be to assess the examination's alignment with the curriculum, its fairness to all prospective students, and its overall validity in measuring academic aptitude. This approach is correct because it prioritizes transparency, objectivity, and adherence to the university's own regulatory framework. It ensures that any concerns are addressed through established, impartial channels, thereby safeguarding the integrity of the entrance process and upholding the university's commitment to academic excellence as stipulated by its internal guidelines for entrance examinations. An incorrect approach would be to immediately dismiss the concerns without any form of investigation. This fails to acknowledge the potential for genuine issues and disregards the university's responsibility to ensure the fairness of its entrance examinations, as implicitly required by its commitment to academic standards. Another incorrect approach would be to allow the external entity to dictate changes to the examination without proper review or consideration of the university's own established procedures and academic requirements. This risks compromising the examination's validity and could be seen as succumbing to undue influence, violating the principle of institutional autonomy and the integrity of the examination process. A further incorrect approach would be to implement changes based solely on the external entity's subjective opinions, without a systematic evaluation against the university's curriculum and examination objectives. This would undermine the scientific and pedagogical basis of the entrance examination. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the relevant regulations and ethical principles governing the institution. This involves actively seeking and objectively evaluating information, consulting with relevant stakeholders, while maintaining impartiality, and making decisions based on evidence and adherence to established procedures. In situations involving external input, the framework should prioritize an independent and rigorous review process that aligns with the institution's core mission and regulatory obligations. Question 13. System analysis indicates that Altai State University is seeking external funding to enhance its examination infrastructure, but the potential funder has expressed a desire to influence the examination content to align with their specific industry needs. Considering the regulatory framework of the Altai State University entrance exam and relevant Russian Federation educational laws, which approach best upholds the principles of academic integrity and fair assessment. Option A. Conduct a thorough review of the proposed content changes to ensure they do not compromise the fundamental academic standards and fairness of the entrance examination, and report any concerns to the examination committee for a decision. Option B. Prioritize securing the funding by agreeing to the content modifications, even if it means a departure from the established examination syllabus. Option C. Proceed with the examination as scheduled, making only minor, superficial adjustments to the content to accommodate the funder's request without a formal review. Option D. Accept the funding and implement the requested content changes, assuming the funder's expertise will improve the examination's relevance. The correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough review of the proposed content changes to ensure they do not compromise the fundamental academic standards and fairness of the entrance examination, and report any concerns to the examination committee for a decision. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the long-term ethical and regulatory obligations concerning the integrity of the entrance examination process. The pressure to secure funding can tempt individuals to overlook or compromise established procedures, potentially leading to severe reputational damage and legal repercussions for Altai State University. The core challenge lies in balancing stakeholder interests, the university administration's financial goals, the applicant's right to a fair assessment, and the broader societal expectation of educational meritocracy. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves prioritizing adherence to the Altai State University entrance exam regulations and the relevant Russian Federation educational laws. This means conducting a thorough review of the examination materials and procedures to ensure they meet all stipulated requirements for fairness, security, and validity. Any identified discrepancies or potential vulnerabilities must be addressed proactively through established channels, such as reporting to the examination committee or relevant academic oversight bodies, before any external funding is accepted or implemented in a way that could compromise the exam's integrity. This approach upholds the principles of academic integrity and legal compliance, safeguarding the university's reputation and the fairness of the admissions process. Incorrect approach is analysis, an approach that involves accepting external funding without a rigorous, independent review of its potential impact on the examination process is ethically flawed and legally risky. This bypasses the established regulatory framework designed to ensure fairness and transparency. It creates a conflict of interest and opens the door to allegations of bias or undue influence, violating the spirit and letter of educational regulation. Another incorrect approach would be to proceed with the examination as planned, while privately acknowledging potential compromises due to the funding. This constitutes a failure of due diligence and transparency. It implies a willingness to proceed despite known risks, which is a direct contravention of the duty to uphold the integrity of the examination process as mandated by university regulations and national educational laws. Finally, an approach that prioritizes securing the funding over the examination's integrity, perhaps by suggesting minor, superficial adjustments to the exam content or administration to appease the funder, is fundamentally wrong. This demonstrates a disregard for the core principles of fair assessment and educational standards, potentially leading to the admission of unqualified candidates and undermining the university's academic standing. Such actions would likely violate specific provisions within the Altai State University entrance exam regulations and broader Russian Federation educational legislation concerning the conduct of admissions. Professional reasoning. Professionals in educational institutions must operate within a strict framework of regulations and ethical guidelines. When faced with competing pressures, such as financial needs versus procedural integrity, the decision-making process should always begin with a clear understanding of the applicable laws and university policies. A systematic approach involves 1. Identifying all relevant stakeholders and their interests. 2. Consulting the specific regulatory documents governing the situation, in this case, Altai State University entrance exam regulations, and Russian Federation educational laws. 3. Assessing potential risks and benefits of each course of action against these regulations. 4. Seeking guidance from appropriate oversight bodies or legal counsel if ambiguity exists. 5. Prioritizing compliance and ethical conduct, even if it presents short-term challenges. Question 14. Comparative studies suggest that students preparing for rigorous university entrance examinations often face ethical dilemmas regarding the interpretation of study guidelines. Considering the specific regulatory framework of the Altai State University entrance exam, which approach best ensures a student upholds academic integrity while preparing effectively? Option A. Engaging in collaborative study sessions, where participants share insights and interpretations of potential exam topics without direct consultation of official regulations. Option B. Assuming that any study material or method not explicitly forbidden by the regulations is permissible, and focusing solely on maximizing knowledge acquisition. Option C. Relying on advice from senior students and online forums about commonly accepted study methods that are not explicitly prohibited in the exam guidelines. Option D. Proactively consulting the official Altai State University entrance exam regulations and seeking clarification from the admissions office regarding any ambiguous study guidelines. The correct answer is D. Proactively consulting the official Altai State University entrance exam regulations and seeking clarification from the admissions office regarding any ambiguous study guidelines. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to excel and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in entrance exams, especially in a competitive environment like Altai State University, can lead students to seek unfair advantages. Navigating this requires a strong understanding of ethical conduct and the specific regulations governing university admissions. The correct approach involves a student proactively seeking clarification on the examination rules and regulations from official university sources. This demonstrates a commitment to fair play and adherence to established procedures, specifically consulting the Altai State University entrance exam regulations, which would outline permissible study materials, prohibited aids, and the definition of academic misconduct, is paramount. This proactive step ensures the student understands the boundaries and avoids unintentional violations. The ethical justification lies in upholding the principles of honesty, integrity, and fairness, which are foundational to any academic institution. By seeking official guidance, the student aligns their actions with the university's stated values and the spirit of a merit-based evaluation. An incorrect approach would be to rely on informal advice from peers or unverified online sources regarding exam content or strategies. This is professionally unacceptable because it bypasses the official channels of information and carries a high risk of misinformation. The regulatory failure here is the disregard for the established communication protocols of the university, potentially leading to a misunderstanding or misinterpretation of the rules. Another incorrect approach would be to assume that certain study methods, even if not explicitly forbidden, are implicitly acceptable. This demonstrates a lack of diligence in understanding the scope of permissible actions. The ethical failure is a passive acceptance of ambiguity rather than an active pursuit of clarity, which can be construed as a willingness to operate in a gray area, potentially bordering on academic dishonesty. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a hierarchical approach to information gathering. First, always refer to the official documentation provided by the institution, in this case, the Altai State University entrance exam regulations. If ambiguity persists, the next step is to seek clarification directly from the relevant university department or admissions office. This ensures that decisions are based on authoritative guidance and minimizes the risk of ethical or regulatory breaches. Question 15. Operational review demonstrates that a significant external sponsor has offered substantial funding for the development of new research facilities and academic programs at Altai State University. However, preliminary discussions suggest the sponsor may seek to exert influence over the selection of research topics and the content of certain courses to align with their commercial interests. What is the most ethically and professionally responsible approach for the university administration to take in evaluating this potential partnership? Option A. Proceed with the partnership, leveraging the sponsor's financial contribution to rapidly expand research capabilities and program offerings, while establishing a joint committee to monitor content alignment. Option B. Accept the sponsorship immediately to secure the funding, assuming the sponsor's intentions are purely beneficial and that any potential influence will be minimal and manageable through informal discussions. Option C. Delegate the decision-making authority to the heads of the departments that would directly benefit from the funding, allowing them to negotiate the terms of the partnership based on their specific needs. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive, independent assessment of the proposed partnership's impact on academic freedom, curriculum integrity, research ethics, and the university's overall mission, negotiating strict safeguards to protect academic independence before committing. The correct answer is A. Proceed with the partnership, leveraging the sponsor's financial contribution to rapidly expand research capabilities and program offerings, while establishing a joint committee to monitor content alignment. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the long-term integrity of its academic programs and reputation. The decision-maker must navigate the ethical imperative to uphold academic standards against the pressure to secure funding, which could compromise the quality of education and the university's standing. Careful judgment is required to balance these competing interests in a manner consistent with the Altai State University's mission and regulatory obligations. The correct approach involves prioritizing the academic integrity and long-term sustainability of the university's programs. This means conducting a thorough and objective assessment of the proposed partnership's impact on curriculum, faculty autonomy, research ethics, and student welfare. If the review reveals potential compromises to academic standards or ethical principles, the university must be prepared to negotiate stricter terms or decline the partnership, even if it means foregoing immediate financial benefits. This aligns with the fundamental ethical obligations of educational institutions to provide high-quality education and to act in the best interests of their students and the broader academic community, as implicitly guided by the principles of academic freedom and institutional responsibility that underpin university governance within the Russian Federation's educational framework. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize the immediate financial gain without adequately assessing the potential negative impacts on academic quality. This could manifest as accepting the partnership with minimal due diligence, overlooking red flags regarding the sponsor's influence on curriculum or research, or downplaying concerns raised by faculty or students. Such an approach would violate the ethical duty to safeguard academic standards and could lead to a decline in the university's reputation, potentially resulting in a loss of accreditation or public trust. Furthermore, it could contravene internal university policies and potentially broader regulations governing educational partnerships and the ethical conduct of academic institutions. Another incorrect approach would be to solely rely on the sponsor's assurances without independent verification. This demonstrates a lack of professional skepticism and an abdication of the university's responsibility to conduct its own rigorous assessment. It exposes the university to risks of misrepresentation and could lead to unforeseen negative consequences that are difficult to rectify once the partnership is established. This failure to exercise due diligence is a significant ethical and professional lapse. A further incorrect approach would be to allow the financial interests of specific departments or administrative units to override a comprehensive, university-wide assessment of the partnership's implication. This siloed decision-making process can lead to a fragmented and potentially detrimental outcome for the institution as a whole, neglecting broader considerations of academic reputation and long-term strategic goals. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a multi-stakeholder approach, including academic leadership, faculty representatives, legal counsel, and ethics committees. A clear framework for evaluating potential partnerships should be established, encompassing criteria related to academic alignment, ethical considerations, financial sustainability, and reputational impact. Transparency and open communication throughout the evaluation process are crucial. When faced with potential conflicts, the decision-maker must weigh the short-term benefits against the long-term risks and uphold the core values and mission of the educational institution. Question 16. Regulatory review indicates that Altai State University is exploring sponsorship opportunities for its upcoming entrance examinations. A prominent technology company, which also offers preparatory courses for these examinations, has expressed strong interest in providing financial support. Considering the Altai State University entrance exam regulations, which approach best safeguards the integrity and fairness of the admission process. Option A. Accept the sponsorship from the technology company and allow the company to contribute a small, non-critical section of practice questions to the examination, framed as a collaborative effort to enhance applicant preparedness. Option B. Accept the sponsorship from the technology company and include a general disclaimer in the examination materials stating that the university is not responsible for any third-party preparatory courses. Option C. Decline the sponsorship from the technology company due to the inherent conflict of interest and seek alternative sponsors whose business activities do not directly relate to examination preparation. Option D. Accept the sponsorship from the technology company, ensuring that the sponsorship agreement explicitly states that the company will have no influence over the examination content, administration, or evaluation, and that all preparatory course materials offered by the company are clearly identified as independent of the university. The correct answer is D. Accept the sponsorship from the technology company, ensuring that the sponsorship agreement explicitly states that the company will have no influence over the examination content, administration, or evaluation, and that all preparatory course materials offered by the company are clearly identified as independent of the university. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate need for funding and the ethical obligation to ensure the integrity of the entrance examination process. The pressure to secure sponsorship from a company with potential conflicts of interest requires careful navigation of Altai State University's entrance exam regulations and ethical guidelines. The core of the challenge lies in balancing financial viability with academic standards and public trust. The correct approach involves prioritizing the integrity and fairness of the entrance examination above all else. This means conducting a thorough due diligence process on any potential sponsor, specifically assessing whether their involvement could create any perception or reality of bias, unfair advantage, or compromise the examination's objectivity. This aligns with the fundamental principles of academic integrity and the regulatory framework governing university entrance exams, which mandate impartiality and equal opportunity for all applicants. Any sponsorship agreement must be structured to explicitly prevent any influence on the examination content, administration, or evaluation. An incorrect approach would be to accept the sponsorship without a rigorous assessment of potential conflicts. This could manifest as prioritizing the financial benefit over the examination's integrity, leading to a situation where the sponsor's products or services are implicitly or explicitly promoted within the examination materials, or where the sponsor gains access to sensitive examination information. Such actions would violate the regulatory framework by undermining the fairness and impartiality of the entrance process, potentially leading to legal challenges, reputational damage for the university, and a loss of public trust in the validity of its admissions. Another incorrect approach would be to accept the sponsorship, but implement only superficial measures to mitigate conflicts, such as a generic disclaimer. This fails to address the root of the problem and leaves the examination vulnerable to subtle forms of influence. The regulatory framework requires proactive and robust measures to prevent conflicts, not merely a perfunctory acknowledgement of their existence. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a multi-stakeholder consultation, including the examination committee, legal counsel, and ethics officers. A risk assessment matrix should be employed to identify potential conflicts and their severity. Transparency with applicants regarding any sponsorship arrangements, while ensuring no compromise to examination fairness, is also crucial. Ultimately, the decision must be guided by the university's commitment to academic excellence and ethical conduct, as stipulated by its governing regulations and internal policies. Question 17. Consider a scenario where an applicant for admission to Altai State University demonstrates strong academic performance and meets all the stated requirements for the Altai State University entrance exam. However, the applicant's family is a significant and long-standing donor to the university, and there is an unspoken expectation from some university leadership that such families might receive favorable consideration. The admissions committee is aware of this donor relationship, Which approach should the admissions committee adopt to ensure the integrity of the entrance exam process? Option A. Grant the applicant preferential treatment in the admissions process due to their family's substantial financial contributions to the university. Option B. Reject the applicant immediately to avoid any appearance of impropriety, even if they meet all the entrance exam requirements. Option C. Evaluate the applicant strictly based on their academic merit and performance on the Altai State University entrance exam, without any consideration of their family's donor status. Option D. Consult with the university's fundraising department to determine the appropriate level of consideration to give the applicant based on their family's donor history. The correct answer is C. Evaluate the applicant strictly based on their academic merit and performance on the Altai State University entrance exam, without any consideration of their family's donor status. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a university's need to attract talented students and the ethical obligation to ensure fair and transparent admissions processes. The admissions committee must balance the desire to recruit high-achieving individuals with the imperative to uphold the integrity of the Altai State University entrance exam regulations. Careful judgment is required to avoid any perception or reality of undue influence or preferential treatment. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective evaluation of all applicants based solely on the established criteria of the Altai State University entrance exam. This means assessing academic merit, performance on the entrance examinations, and any other officially sanctioned requirements without regard to external pressures or personal connections. This adheres strictly to the principles of fairness and meritocracy enshrined in the university's entrance exam framework, ensuring that all candidates are judged on an equal footing according to the published rules. An incorrect approach would be to grant special consideration to the applicant due to their family's significant financial contribution to the university. This directly violates the principle of equal opportunity and the merit-based selection process mandated by the Altai State University entrance exam regulations. Such an action could be construed as a form of bribery or undue influence, undermining the credibility of the entire admissions process and potentially leading to legal challenges or reputational damage for the university. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the applicant outright without a proper review, simply to avoid any appearance of impropriety. While the intention might be to maintain impartiality, this fails to uphold the university's responsibility to consider all eligible candidates fairly. Proper procedure is to evaluate the applicant according to the established criteria, and if they meet those criteria, they should be admitted, regardless of their family's background or potential future contributions. The focus must remain on objective assessment against the exam's requirements. A further incorrect approach would be to consult with the university's fundraising department for guidance on how to handle the applicant. While understanding the university's financial needs is important, admissions decisions must be insulated from fundraising considerations. Allowing financial interests to influence academic admissions creates a conflict of interest and compromises the integrity of the entrance exam process. The professional decision-making process in such situation should follow a clear framework. 1. Identify the core ethical and regulatory principles at play. In this case, fairness, meritocracy, transparency, and adherence to the Altai State University entrance exam regulations. 2. Assess the facts objectively. Evaluate the applicant's qualifications against the established entrance exam criteria. 3. Identify potential conflicts of interest. Recognize the tension between academic merit and potential financial contributions. 4. Consult relevant regulations and guidelines. Refer specifically to the Altai State University entrance exam framework and any associated ethical codes. 5. Make a decision based solely on the established criteria and ethical principles, free from external pressures or personal biases. 6. Document the decision-making process thoroughly to ensure accountability and transparency. Question 18. Compliance review shows that a large technology company, whose products are widely used in the university's computer science programs, has offered a substantial sponsorship for the upcoming entrance examinations, contingent on the university publicly acknowledging their support during the examination period and providing them with early access to anonymized aggregate data on applicant demographics for market research. Which of the following approaches best upholds the principles of academic integrity and regulatory compliance for the Altai State University entrance exam? Option A. Reject the sponsorship outright due to the potential for perceived conflict of interest, regardless of the specific terms offered. Option B. Accept the sponsorship and publicly acknowledge the company's support during the examination period, while also agreeing to share anonymized aggregate data on applicant demographics as requested. Option C. Accept the sponsorship, ensuring a clause in the agreement that the company will not have any direct or indirect influence on the examination content or administration, and that all data shared will be strictly anonymized and aggregated. Option D. Accept the sponsorship, but only if the company agrees to fund improvements to the examination facilities and infrastructure, with no public acknowledgement or data sharing. The correct answer is C. Accept the sponsorship, ensuring a clause in the agreement that the company will not have any direct or indirect influence on the examination content or administration, and that all data shared will be strictly anonymized and aggregated. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate need for funding and the ethical obligation to ensure the integrity of the entrance examination process. The pressure to secure a significant sponsorship from a company with a vested interest in the outcome of the exam requires careful judgment to avoid any perception or reality of undue influence. The university administration must navigate this situation by prioritizing transparency, fairness, and adherence to established academic regulations. The correct approach involves a thorough and independent assessment of the sponsorship proposal, focusing on its alignment with the university's academic mission and its potential impact on the impartiality of the entrance examinations. This requires establishing clear guidelines for evaluating such proposals, ensuring that any sponsorship agreement does not create conflicts of interest or compromise the integrity of the admissions process. Specifically, the university must consult its internal regulations regarding external partnerships and sponsorships, particularly those that could influence academic processes. The ethical justification lies in upholding the principles of fairness and equal opportunity for all prospective students, ensuring that admission decisions are based solely on merit and academic qualifications, not on the financial contributions of external entities. This aligns with the overarching goal of maintaining public trust in the university's admissions procedures. An incorrect approach would be to accept the sponsorship without a rigorous review, prioritizing the financial benefit over the integrity of the examination. This would represent a significant ethical failure, as it could lead to accusations of bias and undermine the credibility of the university. Another incorrect approach would be to accept the sponsorship, but implement only superficial measures to mitigate potential conflicts, such as a vague statement of intent to maintain impartiality. This fails to provide concrete safeguards and leaves the process vulnerable to perceived or actual influence. A further incorrect approach would be to reject the sponsorship outright without exploring potential avenues for a mutually beneficial agreement that upholds academic integrity, potentially missing an opportunity for legitimate support. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a multi-stakeholder consultation, including the admissions committee, legal counsel, and relevant academic departments. A clear policy framework for evaluating and accepting sponsorships should be established and consistently applied. Transparency in the decision-making process and in the terms of any accepted sponsorship is crucial. When faced with potential conflicts of interest, professionals must err on the side of caution, prioritizing ethical considerations and regulatory compliance above immediate financial gains. Question 19. The investigation demonstrates that an applicant for the Altai State University entrance exam has submitted an application form that, while containing accurate information, omits a detail regarding a previous academic disciplinary action that, if disclosed, would require further review by the admissions committee according to university policy. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee? Option A. Request further information from the applicant regarding the undisclosed academic disciplinary action to assess its relevance and impact on their application, in accordance with university regulations on application completeness and review. Option B. Forward the application to a higher authority for a decision without conducting an initial assessment of the omission's significance, as the presence of any undisclosed disciplinary action warrants immediate escalation. Option C. Proceed with the assessment of the application without further inquiry, assuming the omission was unintentional and does not fundamentally alter the applicant's qualifications. Option D. Immediately reject the application due to the omission of a potentially significant detail, as per the strict interpretation of the university's entrance examination guidelines requiring full disclosure. The correct answer is A. Request further information from the applicant regarding the undisclosed academic disciplinary action to assess its relevance and impact on their application, in accordance with university regulations on application completeness and review. Explanation. The investigation demonstrates a scenario where an applicant for Altai State University's competitive entrance examination has presented information that, while not outright false, omits crucial details that could significantly alter the assessment of their suitability. This presents a professional challenge because it tests the integrity of the admissions process and the ethical responsibility of the admissions committee to ensure a fair and transparent evaluation for all candidates. The challenge lies in discerning between minor omissions and deliberate misrepresentation, and in applying the university's entrance examination regulations consistently and justly. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's submitted materials, cross-referencing with any available supporting documentation or established university policies regarding the completeness of applications. This approach is correct because it upholds the principle of fairness and equal opportunity, which is a cornerstone of academic admissions. By seeking clarification or additional information when ambiguities arise, the admissions committee acts in accordance with the spirit of the Altai State University entrance exam regulations, which implicitly require applicants to provide a comprehensive and truthful representation of their qualifications. This proactive stance prevents potential challenges to the admission decision and ensures that the selection process is based on a complete understanding of the applicant's profile. An incorrect approach would be to immediately disqualify the applicant based on the perceived incompleteness without further inquiry. This fails to acknowledge that omissions can sometimes be unintentional or a result of misunderstanding application requirements, and it bypasses the opportunity to gather all necessary facts. Such an action could be seen as overly punitive and lacking in due process, potentially violating the principles of fairness enshrined in the university's examination framework. Another incorrect approach would be to overlook the omission entirely and proceed with the assessment as if the information were complete. This is ethically problematic as it allows for a potentially skewed evaluation, disadvantaging other candidates who have provided more complete information. It undermines the integrity of the examination process and could lead to admitting a candidate who, with full information, might not have met the required standards. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes thoroughness, fairness, and adherence to established regulations. This involves 1. Initial review, carefully examining all submitted documents for completeness and consistency. 2. Identification of gaps, pinpointing any missing information or potential ambiguities. 3. Seeking clarification. If an omission appears significant and could impact the assessment, the applicant should be contacted for clarification or to provide the missing details within the defined scope of the university's examination guidelines. 4. Consistent application of rules, ensuring that the same standards and procedures are applied to all applicants. 5. Documentation, maintaining clear records of all communications and decisions made throughout the process. Question 20. The analysis reveals that Altai State University aims to increase the representation of students from rural regions in its upcoming entrance examinations. However, concerns have been raised about potential disparities in educational resources and preparation levels between urban and rural applicants. The university is considering various strategies to address this. Which of the following approaches best balances the goal of increased representation with the strict adherence to the Altai State University entrance exam's principles of fairness and standardized assessment? Option A. Creating a separate, simplified version of the entrance examination specifically for applicants from rural regions to account for potential differences in prior educational attainment. Option B. Offering a guaranteed admission quota for applicants from rural regions, irrespective of their performance on the entrance examination. Option C. Providing advanced, specialized coaching sessions on exam content exclusively to applicants from rural regions to boost their scores. Option D. Implementing a comprehensive pre-exam mentorship program that pairs rural applicants with current university students to provide guidance on study techniques, exam structure, and university life, while ensuring all applicants have equal access to official study guides and practice tests. The correct answer is D. Implementing a comprehensive pre-exam mentorship program that pairs rural applicants with current university students to provide guidance on study techniques, exam structure, and university life, while ensuring all applicants have equal access to official study guides and practice tests. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's desire to attract a diverse student body and the need to adhere strictly to admission criteria established by the Altai State University Entrance Exam Regulations. The Admissions Committee must exercise careful judgment to ensure that any outreach or support initiatives do not inadvertently create an unfair advantage or compromise the integrity of the examination process, which is governed by specific Altai State University entrance exam guidelines. The correct approach involves developing targeted support programs that address identified barriers to access for specific demographic groups without altering the fundamental assessment criteria or providing preferential treatment during the examination itself. This aligns with the spirit of equitable access while upholding the principle of merit-based selection as defined by the Altai State University Entrance Exam Framework. Such programs might include pre-exam informational sessions, study skills workshops, or financial aid guidance, all designed to level the playing field in terms of preparation and awareness, not in the assessment of knowledge or aptitude. An incorrect approach that involves offering advanced or specialized preparation materials exclusively to certain demographic groups before the exam would be ethically and regulatorily unsound. This would violate the principle of equal opportunity by providing an unfair advantage, directly contravening the Altai State University Entrance Exam's commitment to a standardized and impartial assessment. Another incorrect approach, such as waiving certain examination components for specific groups, would fundamentally undermine the validity and comparability of the entrance exam results, which is a core requirement of the Altai State University Entrance Exam Regulations. Furthermore, creating separate, less rigorous examination pathways for certain demographics would also be a clear violation, as it would fail to assess candidates against the same established standards. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough review of the Altai State University Entrance Exam Regulations concerning admissions and fairness, requires identifying potential interventions that enhance accessibility and preparation without compromising the integrity or standardization of the examination. A risk assessment should be conducted to evaluate whether any proposed initiative could be perceived as preferential treatment or could disadvantage other applicants. Consultation with relevant university departments and adherence to established ethical guidelines for educational institutions are paramount.